If you're starting at $0 and you want $3,000 a month in 10 years, here's the wake-up call and the plan. Most people never start, or they chase 10% yields and get burned. You won't. I'm going to give you the exact contribution schedule, the ETF mix, and the reinvestment rules. And there's one tactical reinvestment rule that quietly accelerates everything. Don't miss it. We're using verified dividend ETFs, DRIPs, and a strict risk guardrail. No hype, no stock picking roulette. You'll see the math, the guardrails, and how to stay on track when the market gets loud. Let's set a simple goal. $3,000 a month is $36,000 a year. Most dividend portfolios pay about 3 to 5% a year. If we use the middle, 4%, you'll need about $900,000 invested to pay you $36,000 a year. That's the target. Here's how yield changes what you need to save. At 3% yield, you need about $1.2 million. At 4%, you need about $900,000. At 5%, you need around $720,000. It's tempting to chase higher yield to make the target smaller, but very high yields are often risky and get cut. So we focus on quality first and use only a small, controlled, high-yield piece. The approach is simple: a quality core, a small high-yield sleeve with limits, and a global dividend sleeve for diversification. Keep fees low, under about 0.3%, because low cost helps compounding. What return do we expect? Dividends plus a bit of price growth. With DRIP, automatic dividend reinvestment, you often add about 2 to 3% to long-term annual returns. That's the quiet compounding engine. Rules keep you safe. Watch for the yield traps. If something pays 6% or more and there's no quality screen, slow down and check if the dividend is covered by real cash flow. Prefer reasonable payout ratios and steady profits. Spread your money across sectors so one industry can't hurt your income. Accounts matter. Use tax-advantaged accounts first: Roth IRA, 401k, traditional IRA, because DRIP compounds without yearly taxes inside those. In taxable accounts, remember reinvested dividends are still taxable income. Track your cost basis and whether dividends are qualified. Once you accept the target, $36,000 a year at around a 4% yield, the next question is speed without dumb risks. That's what the 10-year plan gives you: steady contributions, DRIP on, and simple reinvestment rules. The first 3 years are not about big yield. They're about simple habits, building your base, and sticking with it. Progress feels slow at first. That's normal. Momentum comes from routine. Here's the setup. Start with quality dividend ETFs that are low cost. Look for funds like SCHD style that focus on companies with long dividend histories, strong finances, and reasonable payout ratios. Add 1 or 2 more quality funds so you're not heavy in any single sector. The goal is instant diversification, about 60 to 80 companies through ETFs without picking individual stocks. Your contribution rule: start at $500 a month and increase it by 10% each year until you reach $1,000 a month. If you're paid every 2 weeks, split it, about $250 from each paycheck in year 1. This dollar-cost averaging smooths out ups and downs and keeps you on schedule. Set the transfer the day after payday so you don't second-guess it. Set and raise is the habit that carries this plan. Keep DRIP on for everything. Use a no-fee brokerage DRIP with fractional shares so even small payouts buy more. Every dividend automatically buys more shares, which then pay more dividends next time. It's boring, and it works. Over a decade, that reinvestment has often added 2 to 3% to annual returns. Aim for a blended yield around 3.2 to 3.8% early on. Keep your fund costs low, about 25 to 35 basis points or less. Check your sector mix: consumer staples, healthcare, industrials, some financials, and tech dividend payers through the funds. You're building a steady cash flow base. Here's the common mistake. You see a fund yielding 7 to 10% and feel like you're behind. Don't chase it. Without a quality screen, high yield can mean weak finances and future cuts. You need stable checks, not fragile ones. Check the fund's process and dividend history. Avoid funds full of companies paying out more than they earn. Protect your ability to stay invested. Keep an emergency fund. 3 months of expenses is ideal, but even 1 month is a good start, so a surprise bill doesn't force you to sell at a bad time. You're not timing the market, you're buying on a schedule. What should progress look like? With $500 a month, 10% annual increases, and DRIP, most of you will hit your first $1,000 in annual dividends by the end of year 2 or 3. That first comma makes it real. Once the base is running, we can speed up income without taking dumb risks. That's where the yield sleeve comes in, with guardrails. Now we're in the phase where most people overreach. They feel behind, they see a double-digit yield somewhere, and, they grab it. Don't. We're going to add yield, but with a hard ceiling and clear rules so you keep durability. The structure is simple. Keep your quality core at 70 to 80%. That's your SCHD style and similar quality dividend ETFs doing the heavy lifting. Then introduce a capped high-yield sleeve, primarily REITs and dividend factor ETFs at 10 to 20%. Finally, add a global dividend ETF around 10% for diversification. That mix gives you income lift without letting any one sleeve drive the bus. Your contribution escalator should now reach $1,000 to $1,250 per month, still with annual 5 to 10% bumps if income allows. The mistake people make is freezing contributions as their portfolio grows. Don't stall the flywheel. Those raises and bonuses are the accelerant. Here's the tactical reinvestment rule that quietly speeds everything up. Direct all dividends and new cash into the sleeve that's trading cheapest versus its own 12-month average. Not the lowest price on the screen, the most discounted relative to its recent self. If the REIT sleeve is down 8% versus its 12-month average and the core is flat, new money goes to REITs. If global's the one lagging, feed global. This forces you to buy relative value without pretending you can call bottoms. Guardrails matter more than ever. Cap your portfolio's blended yield around 4.5 to 5.2%. If you drift above that, you're likely sliding into trap territory. Rebalance annually within 5% bands. If a sleeve has grown beyond its range, trim it back and top up the one that's underweight. Keep fees under 30 basis points where possible. Cost drag compounds just like returns do. Reality check. Dividend cuts can and do happen. The defense is diversification through ETFs that screen for quality and avoid the weakest payers. You're not betting on a single leveraged REIT. You're buying the broader income engine with rules. What should progress feel like by the end of year 5 or 6? If contributions stayed on track, DRIP is still on, and you followed the reinvestment rule, you should be pushing or crossing $10,000 a year in dividends. That's $800 plus per month showing up, reinvesting, and buying weakness on schedule. The income slope is steeper now, and your behavior is still the edge. Once you've got that higher income base, we shift into stability mode while sharpening the edge. This next part separates beginners from pros. Balances are larger, so sequence risk starts to matter. A big drawdown right before you need the income hurts more than it did in year 2. So we tilt slightly back toward quality and dividend growth while keeping the yield sleeve, just trimmed if volatility spikes. Keep DRIP fully on. That's non-negotiable until we enter the final stretch. Layer in a simple buy-the-dip behavior with new cash. On red weeks, channel fresh contributions toward the sleeve in drawdown, or your core if everything's down. You're not forecasting. You're reacting to price relative to its recent range. It's the same relative value rule, tightened by what the market gives you week to week. Contributions should be running $1,250 to $1,500 a month now. Tie increases to raises and bonuses. When a lump sum shows up, bonus, tax refund, send it to the most undervalued sleeve by the 12-month comparison. Each $10,000 you add at a 4% yield buys roughly $400 in yearly income. Simple, concrete, motivating. Keep global dividends between 10 and 20% to fight home bias. You want a mix of developed markets that pay reliably so you're not overexposed to a single country's policy or sector tilt. Monitor your aggregate payout growth rate across funds. Favor those with consistent increases over time rather than flashy one-offs. Common mistakes here? Chasing the hottest 12-month yield. That shiny number often spikes after a sector sell-off or an unsustainable payout. Also, ignoring expense creep. If a fund raises fees and there's a lower cost equivalent with similar methodology, switch. And don't let any sleeve exceed 35%. Concentration risk grows with your balance. By the end of year 8, with compounding, steady raises, and disciplined reinvestment, your annual dividends should be pressing into the $18,000 to $22,000 range if markets have been cooperative, a bit lower if they haven't. Either way, the machine is clearly working. The checks are bigger, more frequent, and still reinvesting. This is where it gets fun and where discipline matters most. The final stretch is about precision, locking in reliability, keeping a small buffer, and setting up withdrawals without choking off growth. We'll do that by maintaining quality as the anchor, letting the yield sleeve work inside its cap, and using partial DRIP to practice cash flow before the bell actually rings. You're close, so reliability beats everything. The goal now is simple. Finish with at least $36,000 over the last 12 months and a small surplus so you're not sweating every fluctuation. Target a final allocation of 60 to 70% quality core, 15 to 20% REITs, and 10 to 20% global dividends. Keep a small cash buffer, 1 to 2 months of expenses, outside the portfolio so you don't need to disrupt positions for routine cash needs. You want a blended yield around 4%, give or take. If your value lands near $900,000, 4% is the math you need. I like aiming for $40,000 annualized, so slips, cuts, or missed specials don't push you under 36. Now, let's shift reinvestment. Turn DRIP down to 50 to 75% across funds. That keeps the compounding alive while sending 25 to 50% to cash. Use that cash to simulate retirement withdrawals. You're test-driving your income stream for 6 to 12 months before you truly need it. If you notice seasonality, some funds pay heavier in certain quarters, smooth it by holding a month or two of expected income in the brokerage cash sweep. Taxes matter, so prioritize tax-advantaged accounts when possible. Roth dollars are the cleanest for withdrawals, qualified distributions are tax-free, while traditional accounts trigger ordinary income. In taxable accounts, qualified dividends often get favorable rates. Track tax lots and holding periods so you don't accidentally convert qualified to non-qualified. If you must raise cash beyond dividends, harvest losses when available to offset gains. Don't force it, but use the tool. Rebalance once a year within 5% bands. Trim what's run hot. Top up what's lagged within your guardrails. Keep the weighted expense ratio at or under 30 basis points. Don't let complacency invite fee creep. Stress test the portfolio. Assume a mild recession, a 5 to 10% drop in distributions in a couple sleeves, and confirm you can still clear 36. Maintain 3 to 6 months of regular expenses between your emergency fund and cash buffer. Finish year 10 with trailing 12-month income at or above $36,000. The extra few thousand is your safety margin and inflation shock absorber. That's the finish line. Reliable income with resilience baked in.